Hello. Alright, so in my last video yesterday, I very inaptly tried to explain what philosophical idealism means, what that actually consists of, and today we're going to be talking about, the other metaphysical position, which is materialism, and then tomorrow we'll be comparing them, and then the day after that we'll be looking at some examples of some famous idealists and trying to think about how we won't just be looking at famous idealists, we'll be looking at allegedly so-called radical philosophers and theorists, and trying to think about, whether or not they are idealists or materialists, and, what it means for them to be one or the other. We're going to be looking at the politics of these different philosophical positions. So today, talking about materialism. And, materialism is a lot more fun to talk about, not just because I identify as a materialist, but the original materialists, Democritus and Epicurus, are really fun to read. They're great guys, really fun stuff. Democritus, the original materialist, and then Epicurus kind of like just elaborated on his theory a bit and, refined it, made it a bit more sophisticated. And, studying ancient Greek philosophy is just really fun because it has something to do. I was thinking about why I had so much fun studying ancient Greek philosophy, and I think it has a lot to do, in fact, with the fact that the writings are actually very short. There's really not a large volume of writings, so you don't have to so you can really just focus in on selected excerpts and just focus on getting a lot out of them, extracting a lot of meaning from a relatively small volume of writing, whereas studying modern philosophers whose works are extant, like Kant for example, and Hegel, is just such a pain in the ass. But anyway, yesterday we were talking about how idealism just means that in some sense you believe that there is something in the world that is not made out of matter, spirit, or soul, or whatever, or something ideal, something that is non-material. There are some philosophers who believe that that is all that exists, like Berkeley is kind of a fringe guy, but his belief was that there's nothing but ideas, there's nothing but immaterial stuff, but that is not a necessarily common view, to reduce everything to one type of substance. Most idealists or materialists try to believe that there's duality. There's one and the other. There are two different types of substance, sorry, I'm just being distracted by all the traffic around me. Anyway, what was I saying? Yeah, so whether or not, as an idealist you think that there's nothing but ideas, immaterial substance, or whether or not you think there's a combination of ideas and material substance, ideal substance and material substance, you are still ultimately going to, your philosophy is logically going to give priority to the ideal. It's going to, the soul is generally composed of some kind of ideal substance. It is, the ideal comes to have privilege, and even if you still believe that, Descartes, for example, thought that there was some kind of, there's some kind of, connective element between the two realms, the ideal realm and the physical realm, there's still like logically going to be priority given to the ideal. Anyway, the materialist, by contrast, believes that there is nothing but material, that is like nothing but physical stuff. The ancient Greek guys, Democritus and Epicurus, and the Epicureans who followed after him, they're referred to as atomists, where they really believe that it's just a matter of atoms, which are the smallest part. It's just the tiny part, and can be infinitely reduced. Ultimately, that's my reading of Epicurus. But the idea is that the cosmos, the physical universe, creation, what is composed of nothing but atoms and void. Void being the space between atoms, because atoms, they come to form molecules and whatnot, but are bodies. They didn't use the word molecules back then, but they spoke about composite bodies, which is basically the same idea as a molecule. But yeah, so their view is that really it just comes down to those two types of substance. A void is not really a substance, it's just an absence of substance. It's like something that allows for there to be multiple bodies. Maybe I'm pretty sure that there are some, like Anaxagoras and maybe Thales really thought that there's like nothing but one substance and there's no void, so like everything is really connected, kind of like soupy. Like they talk about, I think it's Thales, like these guys, I mean, as fun as it was to study them, they do tend to run together a bit, but their view is that like everything is just one substance. So void, like the space separating myself from this camera, is really like a substance that is identical to myself and to the camera. Anyway, do I have anything more to say about that? Not really. I mean, obviously, I'm just trying to like present just what these philosophical positions are. I'm trying to build up to saying something more important, more relevant. But the idea that I'm trying to impart here is that there's a distinction between idealist and materialist, that those distinctions are metaphysical. A lot of people just like tend to, I see so many people like throwing about, especially like people don't really call each other idealists very much, but people do tend to talk about materialism. They just throw that term around, bandy it about willy-nilly without necessarily thinking about metaphysics. That's like not on their mind, fair enough, but it does have meaning, and I just think that it's important for us to hold in mind the like ultimate meaning of these sorts of terms. So leftists love to talk about the material conditions, it's all about the material conditions, following from Marx and every other commie. But the material conditions, like when Marx talks about the material conditions, he's connecting it to an entire like metaphysical project, an entire world's view that starts with metaphysics, goes to the level of ontology, and then it becomes practical, ethical, and in turn it becomes political. But like these terms have a greater meaning, and later on in a few days, when we start talking about how certain allegedly ostensibly radical philosophers are idealists, when we call somebody like Derrida or Foucault an idealist, it has meaning, and that meaning has significance. Like, their metaphysical principles end up affecting their political convictions. Like, there's a whole chain of continuity from one level of philosophy to another. Metaphysics is like the base level, or maybe ontology is the base level. I think it's probably metaphysics first, and then ontology, and then probably ethics, and then politics. I mean, epistemology goes in there somewhere. Probably, I would say epistemology is after metaphysics, before ethics and politics. Aesthetics also has to go in there somewhere. Maybe it's like a separate branch from politics and ethics, like practical philosophy, but like kind of on the same level. Whatever, it doesn't matter. This is just a complete tangent, but you know, what else are these videos other than complete tangents? Is that, I mean, yeah, so just, I mean, it's worth remembering that Marx wrote his dissertation on Epicurus and ancient Greek atomists, like ancient Greek philosophy, the original materialism. So his materialism has like philosophical foundation. Yeah, it's just worth keeping in mind, I think, and worth understanding the metaphysical foundations of leftism. But I'm looking forward to continuing this little series and taking it somewhere more relevant. But I'll see you next time.